Hey everyone, my name is Charles. Last year I only spent $2,754.87 on food. Even though I am over 6 feet tall, I'm over 200 pounds, I'm also a very active person. If you do the math, that comes out to only $2.52 per meal, assuming 3 meals a day and 365 days in the year. And I happen to know that this is almost exactly half of what the average American spends on food. Even though the average American is much smaller than I am, and they also live in a much less expensive area than me near Washington, D.C. So in this video, I wanted to just take you through an average day for me, show you what I actually eat, and if you would like to follow along with these recipes and some others that I actually use to keep my food budget super low, I put a short little recipe book in the description. Just put in your email, it'll get sent to you instantly. But this morning, we're starting with one of my favorite recipes, which is a spinach omelet. I start by putting a little bit of oil in the pan and turning on the heat, and then I'll add a huge handful of spinach. Spinach cooks down a ton, so add more than you think. This fills the entire pan, but this is going to turn into not that much spinach. And then I've already prepared some sausage links. Sausage is not the meat I would normally add, but these were on sale, and I've already cooked them, so I'm just going to throw in some bits. I think ham is a much better combination for this, but yeah, I really just grab whatever's on sale. And then, as I mentioned, I am a pretty big guy, so I'm probably going to eat way more than most people would, and I'm going to make a 6 egg omelet. These are $1.64 per dozen at the local grocery store, so that's just 82 cents on the eggs. By the time I finished cracking the eggs and scrambling them, the spinach should be pretty cooked down and the pan should be pretty hot. So when I add these eggs, this is going to cook really fast. All total, this meal only takes me about 7 minutes tops. So what I love about this meal is one, it is super, super cheap, and also it has a ton of protein. So I did the math. The sausage adds about 9 grams of protein for how much I'm adding. And then there was 6 grams of protein per egg. I'm adding 6 eggs. That's another 36 grams. All total, we're looking at 45 grams of protein just in this one bowl. But in terms of cost, this is about 40 cents of sausage. I think it was actually cheaper since I got it on sale, but I can't remember exactly what I paid when it was discounted. I think I mentioned the eggs were about 82 cents total, and then I think the spinach is about 38 cents. I think one big bag of spinach lasts for about 6 omelets, so that's what it sort of comes out to. So we're looking at 45 grams of protein for $1.60 for an absolutely delicious, super filling meal. And all of that in about 7 minutes. So that's why this is my absolute go-to breakfast. Hey everyone, it is later in the morning, and I'm looking for a snack. So recently, my go-to snack has been a bowl of cereal. So this is Raisin Bran from Lidl. I find that for a bowl of cereal, this box has about 5 bowls, and that comes out to 40 cents per bowl because the box is $2. I add in almost exactly 1 cup of milk. That means that a gallon of milk lasts about 3 boxes of cereal. A cup of milk costs about 21 cents. So just for a snack, 1 bowl of cereal, you're looking at 8 grams of protein from the cereal, 8 grams of protein from the milk, and total cost 61 cents. Now, sometimes I will just have 2 bowls of cereal, and that sort of makes a full meal. Then you're looking at 32 grams of protein for $1.22. So pretty darn cheap, pretty high protein, pretty darn tasty. Yeah, that has really become my go-to when I just want something in between meals. Hey, I hate to interrupt, but I need to help you save some money. So here's a question I want you to ask yourself. How much money do you spend on your phone plan? If the answer is I don't know or a lot, then I want to help you out, which is why this video is sponsored by Tello. They're a super affordable mobile provider. They have plans for as low as $5 a month, which is absolutely crazy, but even if you want their very best, their unlimited plan, you're still not going to pay more than $25 a month. But even though they are super affordable, you still get to use America's largest 5G network. There's a very good chance you can keep your own phone and your existing phone number too. Tello is one of the very few companies that I will work with because I only accept sponsorships from companies that I think will help you save money. And switching to Tello could save a lot of folks hundreds of dollars per year. So I'm going to put a link to Tello.com in the description. Use that link so that they know that I sent you. But with that, let me get back to the video. Hey, so for lunch, we're going to have a meal which has become a big favorite of mine recently. We're going to start this with a really big dollop of Greek yogurt. This is super cheap, super high in protein. So I think I'm adding about 1 serving of Greek yogurt here. That means 17 grams of protein, but only about 56 cents. So that's a great place to start. On top of that, I'm going to add a really big serving of peanut butter. Again, super high protein, really, really low cost. I don't know exactly how much peanut butter I'm adding here. It's hard to really calculate that because I have such a big tub of peanut butter and I'm just sort of eyeballing it. But if I had to guess, this looks like about 3 servings of peanut butter to me. Maybe people in the comments will tell me I'm crazy, but I think that's about right. That means 21 grams of protein and only about an extra 37 cents of cost. And this meal literally only takes like 1 minute to prepare, and all of that is just trying to stir this up to make it well mixed. That does take a little bit of work sometimes, but it's super worth it because this tastes really, really good once you have it all mixed together. And I will also tell you, this thing is the most filling meal I have ever had. This does not look like that much food. I'm a huge hungry person, but this is extraordinarily filling. And something that makes this way better is to add something to give a little more texture. If I really want to treat myself, I might even add semi-sweet chocolate chips. Those are super, super good, but less healthy. But other really great options is nuts, or what I'm going to add today is raisins. Raisins have probably been my favorite recently, but I've been meaning to try out some other nuts. For example, I think walnuts would go really well with this too. So all total, we're looking at about 38 grams of protein just in this, and total cost 56 cents from yogurt, 37 cents from peanut butter, and maybe a quarter for the raisins. So we're looking at $1.20 for this meal. That is not bad, and this meal is an absolute lifesaver if you don't have a lot of time. Hey, so for dinner this week, I'm going to be food prepping. So not only will I be making dinner for tonight, I'm also going to be making dinner for the rest of the entire week, which I love doing because I don't like having to cook all of the time. I love having a meal already made. I'm going to start by chopping up these potatoes. What we're going to do is we're going to make mashed potatoes with chicken and vegetables and beans. So I'm going to start that just by chopping up these potatoes and putting them in my pressure cooker. I leave the skin on potatoes because you get a lot more protein if you do that, but a lot of it's just because I could never be bothered to skin them. That is so much more work. I really don't mind the taste. I don't really even notice the skin. So yeah, I have literally never peeled a potato. And once it's in the pressure cooker, I'm going to add a half cup of water for every pound of potatoes. So that means 2.5 cups of water for these 5 pounds, which I am making right now. And I'm going to pressure cook this for 12 minutes. While the pressure is building, I'm going to start chopping up my chicken. I generally shoot for a chicken to potato ratio of 1 to 2. So I'm chopping up about 2.5 pounds of chicken, but I'm not super carefully measuring it. And I'm just throwing this in a pot and we are going to boil it in a moment. Usually by the time I have the chicken going, the potatoes have built up pressure. So they're actually going to finish right about the same time, which is kind of convenient. Just sort of works out that way. But with about 6 or 7 minutes to go, what I'll usually do is I will dump in about 2 pounds of frozen vegetables in with the chicken. And I'm also going to throw in 2 cans of beans. I don't need to cook these. I just throw them in because I think it adds a little bit of flavor, but you can also add these after. By the way, I get asked all the time why I don't use dried beans and I only use canned beans. Well, it's just because my closest grocery store doesn't have dried beans. So canned beans is the only thing I can buy. And once again, just like the other meals, this is going to have a ton of protein for very little cost. So 2.5 pounds of uncooked chicken, that's about 250 grams of protein. Then the beans add 16 grams between the 2 cans, looking at about 65 grams of protein from the 5 pounds of potatoes, plus the vegetables. I didn't even look at how much protein those add, not a whole lot, but over 8 meals, which is what this is going to make, that averages out to about 41 grams of protein per meal. And these are going to be very dense, very, very filling meals. For people smaller than me, this might make more than 8 meals. Once the chicken is cooked, I'm going to take this off the heater and just start letting it cool. And I'm going to release the pressure on the potatoes because they just finished in the pressure cooker. Now that the potatoes are done, I'm going to scoop them out into some serving bowls. I'm going to add a half stick of butter to each one of these serving bowls, so a total stick for the 5 pounds. And I'm also going to add some milk. I'm just completely eyeballing the amount of milk. I don't really know how much I add, but I think I probably add about a cup total, not a whole lot. And I'm just going to mash these up with a fork. Later, I'll also add on top the chicken and the vegetables. Not shown, I also add some salt and pepper and whatever other seasonings that you want. And I'm just going to put these in some food prep containers. Again, this will be my dinner for the entire week. I do freeze a few. If you're not going to eat them quickly, they can go bad. But if you throw them in the freezer, it is no problem. So in terms of cost, we're only looking at about $2.9 for all of those potatoes, about $7.50 worth of chicken, about $2.50 from the vegetables, about $1.70 from the beans, and about $1 of butter. So all total for these 8 meals, that's about $15.65. Over 8 meals, that's less than $2 per meal. And again, over 40 grams of protein in every single meal. And once again, these meals are super filling. They're super easy to make. I am not a good chef, and it's really hard to mess this up. It's always worked out fine. And they're going to be super, super tasty. So that is how I eat. Now, I'm not a chef, so I'm sure there are ways to improve a lot of these recipes. I'm also not a nutritionist, so I can't tell you whether you should or should not eat the way that I do. This is just what I do, and I thought it might be helpful for some folks. I am pretty darn confident that I eat more healthy than the average person in the US, and I know for a fact that I spend way, way less money than the average person in the US does on food. So if I eat all 4 of the meals that I showed you in this video in one day, which I typically do, especially on days where I'm going to kickboxing and training, then that means I'm getting 156 grams of protein, which is about right for somebody my size, but I'm only spending $5.85 for the entire day. I know so many people who get DoorDash or Uber Eats or something like that and are spending $30 for a single meal. So this makes such a massive, massive difference on how much money you're spending on food and how much money you get to save. This makes a huge, huge difference. And it's not like I'm spending a ton of time in the kitchen all of the time or eating things that don't taste very good. I'm spending very little time doing the prep. I think all these things taste pretty darn good. So hopefully this video gave you a little bit of inspiration and some ideas to try out to save more money on food. And if you liked this video, you'll probably also like this video right here. I did the exact same thing, but it was a different day, so I ate completely different recipes. So you might find some other ideas, some other recipes that work better for you. So check it out next.